Hello, everyone. I'm Mimi Lichtenstein, and today on Adventures in Luxury Travel, I am here with Wazha Dube, and I am delighted to have him on to talk about Zambia. Wazha, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Mimi. Great to be here.
Well, we're so happy to have you. I, for one, have never been to Zambia or sent any clients to Zambia, so I am here to learn a lot today along with our listeners and viewers.
Absolutely.
So we are lucky to have you because your family is from Botswana. You are well traveled, growing up all over the world, and today we're going to just mine your knowledge for everything about having an amazing safari in Zambia.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's jump in.
Maybe start with why Zambia? Most people, if they're going on a first safari, tend to go up to Kenya, Tanzania, maybe down to South Africa or Botswana. What's so special about Zambia, and why would somebody go there versus one of the other countries?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And let me start by saying I've always been biased. Being from Botswana, I've been going on safari since I was 8 years old. And that was really kind of my bar was set very high, being from Botswana, with the having no fences and the plethora of animals. But then when you get to Zambia, you'll see the biodiversity of the species. I mean, if you're a birder, if you want the big five, if you want a lot of adventure too, with Mosia Tunya, Vic Falls, Victoria Falls, with several amazing national parks, and also Zambia really being the home of walking safaris and canoeing safaris. There really just is, a limitless amount of adventure that you can do in Zambia that a lot of countries, even East Africa or, myself being from Botswana, don't have. So it really is for the client who, whether you're a first timer or you're coming for repeat, who wants to really get into the wild.
Yeah. Well, and I do think there are a lot of people who sort of stop in to see Victoria Falls, right, from the Zambia or Zimbabwe side. But today we're talking about staying for a longer and going out further into the country. So let's bring up the map. And could you walk through, for the people who are watching or the people who might be listening on the podcast, the different big areas, the parks, and where you might go?
Yeah. So, of course, let's start with the main cities. Most of our clients will usually fly into Lusaka, which is the capital. That was actually the original capital in Zimbabwe was actually Livingstone when it became a country, and then from there they moved the capital up to Lusaka. So those are going to be your two main hubs where any of our clients will be flying into. Livingstone is also the home of Mosia Tunya, which is the original name of Victoria Falls. Now, going from west to east, we've got Lua Plains in terms of national parks. Lua Plains is in Borotse land, and that was land from the Lozi people, from the Borotse people from King Lawanikas, which is absolutely amazing. That's where the second largest wildebeest migration happens in Africa. And of course, Kafue National Park, also where Busanga Plains is as well. And that is the largest national park in Kenya, right there, just north of Livingstone, just west of Lusaka. Lower Zambezi, which is a national park, which borders Zimbabwe and is shares the Zambezi River, is one of easily my favorite areas to go to because of the activities, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get into that soon.
Yeah.
And then in the far east, we've got South Luangwa and North Luangwa national parks, which are very famous. Particularly, I know we'll be focusing a lot on South Luangwa today. The home of walking safaris. So, there are multiple parks all throughout, Zambia. And Zambia is a little bit smaller than Texas. A lot of people don't know that. So it's a very large space with a lot of different national parks for you to go through.
Yeah. And so we'll talk maybe at the end about, an ideal time frame if somebody does want to come and see Zambia. But I think it's hard for us Americans who oftentimes take a week off, right, for vacation to get to Africa, see it, and come back. So you definitely need more time if you're going to be heading over there for sure.
Absolutely.
Then we just have a few beautiful photos of the wildlife. You guys are lucky to have the Big Five in Zambia with you, and obviously lots of stunning sunrises and sunsets, as you could tell from this photo. Hippos are the animal that's like super fascinating to me. I love this photo. Wide mouth. Have you ever had any, let's say, interesting or particularly dangerous hippo encounters?
How much time do you have? I wouldn't say any of them were dangerous, but one thing that you can really enjoy in Zambia, on the Zambezi River, again, I always talk about this, the mighty Zambezi, it is the lifeblood of this area, is canoeing safaris. And when you're doing that, you are, of course, in the river with hippos and elephants and crocodiles and everything else. So we do, of course, try to stay away from the hippos and give them their space. But yeah, I've definitely had quite a few experiences with hippos being right next to them.
Okay. Well, that must be exhilarating, quite honestly, to be so
Yeah.
close to a hippo in a little tiny kayak or canoe, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank God for amazing guides.
yeah. And so just out of curiosity, I was in, where was I? South Carolina last year near a very, very large alligator, and it opened up its mouth wide. It's about, almost as wide as this. And I learned later that was actually an aggressive tactic. Is that the same with hippos, or does he just have a big yawn going on right now?
It is a bit of showing their teeth and their dominance. They're very, very territorial males, and usually one male will have a pod of females. So they've always got to be on the lookout for other males. So it's showing their teeth, gritting their teeth, and really showing their dominance.
Okay. Well, they're, beautiful, but obviously
Yes.
you want to
But
be
actually,
safe.
if we go back, that is something we need to talk about is the wild
Yeah.
dog population. Now, a lot of people always talk about the big five, and they are amazing. Of course, elephant, rhino, lion, leopard, and buffalo. But not enough people talk about the wild dog populations. And if you're going to go to especially places like South Luangwa, they are. To me, it's like the biggest appeal of seeing safari animals is to go see wild dogs, and
Yeah.
so they're massive packs you can find in Zambia. And if you're looking to spend time with the pack, that's a bucket list item.
It is. Yeah, it is funny, right? Because maybe they're smaller, so they're just not as revered as some of the bigger animals. But
Yeah.
how many of them are in a pack? About.
The packs can vary, actually. They can get quite large. The largest pack I've ever seen was about 30.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And actually, as much as we love to give our credit to lions and leopards, wild dogs have the highest success rate for hunting than any other predator in Africa.
So I imagine you've probably seen some of that in action.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw actually. I've seen two wild dog kills both in Botswana, and it was truly something to watch because their hunting styles are very, very different, and they use the pack mentality of coordination and tactics when they're hunting. So, and they have to feed 30 other of their family members. So they pretty much do a kill, eat everything, and then get right back on a
Move
hunt.
on. And what were the animals they were hunting?
They can take down a lot, but I saw them take down a bush buck once, and then it was in eland. No, it was a kudu actually,
Okay.
which was pretty
Wow.
amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then rhinos.
Yes. So this particular photo is actually in Mosia-Tunya National Park, and this is right close to our camp, Thorntree River Lodge. And this is actually one of the only 3 national parks in the world where the rhinos are protected 24 hours a day. These are white rhino, and they're protected 24 hours a day by the rangers. The Zambian wildlife community is absolutely amazing, and they've done such amazing work and gone to really far lengths to revitalize their endangered species populations. So this is one of the areas you can go to and actually trek white rhino with rangers, and it's just absolutely amazing. So it is really one of those things when you go to the falls that you really, really must do, because you can't as easily see rhinos in other areas. So this is one that I can almost guarantee you.
Okay. Well, that's a good reason to go to Zambia.
Yes.
And then this is a beautiful picture of a lion with its cub.
Then this is over in Lua Plains, which is very famous for its large predators. A lot of people who've never seen a lion probably can't tell, but those lions are actually quite fat for their age. Oh. And so this is one of the beauties of being out in these areas where there's a ton of prey for them and not a lot of predators and competition. So the animals out here can get quite big.
Well, it's interesting because a few weeks ago, I was doing a show on Namibia and seeing the desert adapted lions and how much skinnier they are. And I think it was the elephants too that had like really, really skinny legs because they just are not going to get as much to eat as these guys. These guys look much healthier.
Absolutely.
And Okay, tell us about this guy walking with the two lions.
The man, the myth, the legend. This is Norman Carr. He became very famous in the early 1900s. He was the warden of the Luangwa National Parks. And what really made him famous, and those are his two pet lions, that's Big Boy and Little Boy, that he raised from cubs and walked with him everywhere. Norman Carr was really one of the first people to really convince the communities in the area that preserving the wildlife in their wildlife areas was in their best interest. And so he really, took a lot of time and became famous for working with the communities to turn their areas into conservation areas that they could actually benefit from. Whether that was for hunting, especially in his day, hunting and tourism. Photographic safaris were not popular. It was really a lot of hunting. So, and obviously a lot of the tribes in these areas also hunted. So he was really one of the big converters into photographic safaris, and not just for Zambia, but for the whole region. But he is, of course, also known as being the founder of walking safaris as well.
Wow. It's for people like him that we have the fortune of being able to see many of these animals still today, right? When they began all the conservation efforts long ago.
Absolutely. Norman Carr, working with the communities and the tribes who knew animals, as well as he did, really did find ways to bond the communities and the different tribes to show that the wealth that they had within the flora and fauna in their communities, and how to not only benefit from that financially, but also to preserve their environments as well.
Okay, now we transition to the absolute stunning Victoria Falls, which I know goes by a more original name. You say it better than me.
Yes, Mosi Atunya. Mosi Atunya means smoke that thunders. That is the original name of the falls. And actually, if you were in Zambia, it is called Mosi Atunya National Park. We say Mosi Atunya. If you're in Zimbabwe, it is, of course, Victoria Falls. Same one. Being from Botswana, I use Mosi Atunya as the traditional name. This is a must. I know a lot of people will come to the falls and kind of think, whether on Zimbabwe or Zambia, and say, well, that's enough for me. We've done enough of Zambia. But this is just the beginning or the end, depending on how you're doing your itinerary. But there is so much to do here.
I mean, you and I were talking before. It's like an adventure capital of Africa,
yes.
Similar to Queenstown in New Zealand. These falls just have this draw for being active and adventure activities.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to see here. There's so much history. The tribes in the area. There's a ton of restaurants. I mean, you can come out here easily for 3 to 4 days and enjoy. But of course, being the North American market, we don't have that much time.
Right. And so this is an aerial shot of, I think, the falls, right?
Yes, indeed. That's coming up from the Zambian side. Okay. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the best time to visit the falls, especially if you want to go and do activities like visiting Devil's Pool, which I think we'll see soon, is coming when the falls are drier, between the months of July to December.
Okay.
But when at its height, when we're about to approach rainy season, the falls, you can see the mist from right before you even hear the falls. And that's actually why, again, we call it smoke that thunders, is you can't see them, but you can hear them, and it feels like it's raining, but it's actually just the mist from the falls falling on top of you.
And you know what else I learned? I've been to Niagara Falls, right? Big American thing to do. Big, impressive, took my kids, amazing. These are twice as tall.
Yeah. The only thing that I've ever been to that can really compete with this is Iguazu Falls in Brazil. Yeah. And of course, that is the widest falls in the world. But this is truly an experience. And I think, both sides give a lot of credit to both Zimbabwe and Zambia, how they have allowed clients on either side of the falls to have similar experiences, whether that's again, as you said before, very active or serene. It really is the lifeblood of both.
And we'll dive into some of those fun experiences in a few minutes.
Yes.
Right. So here's an example of an active experience to do, which is not available in every country when you're going on safari, to just hop out in a canoe and go paddle along and see some elephants. So Where was this one taken? Do you remember?
Yes, this is on the Zambezi River. This is in Lower Zambezi National Park. You can always tell because there's not a lot of places that you can go canoeing in Africa, especially like this in deep water. So we are back on the mighty Zambezi. This is far from the falls. This water is quite deep. This is unlike doing mokoros in Botswana, where the water could just be a few feet deep. It can be a few meters deep here. So, you will be in the water with elephants, hippos, crocodiles. We'll, be seeing birds and everything in between. So it's an amazing mix of adrenaline-filled activities, and also being very serene of being on the water and literally just hearing
and so quiet. Not in a safari vehicle that's not electric. And I noticed here there's a couple baby elephants. Is there a particular time of year where you might see more baby elephants?
Actually, no, all year round. This is how the Zambezi is going to be. In obviously in wetter months, then they'll be more spread out because there's more water, and in drier months, of course, they'll be more concentrated. But once we're on the river, you will see them because they'll be along the river. Love this.
This is just like wide open spaces. For those people listening, it's a picture of it. Almost just looks like a big delta with a couple people kayaking along in what looks like inflatable kayaks, which makes me a little nervous if there's hippos around.
Well, that is the beauty of Lua. Lua Plains, which is the national park I showed in the west of the country, has no hippos. So we can luckily go out in this area and we can kayak. We actually then this is seasonal kayaking when the rains come in, which is right around now. It's coming up right now. This is one of those areas where we've got a mix of woodlands and amazing plains, and you can kayak, through these plains once the rains come in. Just absolutely just fantastic.
It looks just so stunning. And of course, traditional safaris going out in safari vehicles. How many of the properties that you work with in Zambia have moved to electric vehicles? Are they in the process of doing that, or what's the status?
Actually, no. None of our properties have chosen to do that yet. We're still sticking with gas and using Land Cruisers. It is some that is coming up. We are seeing, especially in places like Botswana, with the likes of Chobe Game Lodge and a few other camps who are actually using electric vehicles and boats, but we've not chosen to done that over on our side yet. One of the issues with that is, especially because we have such large areas of land to cover, that electric vehicles right now can't cover as much.
You don't want to get stuck out there. There's no Tesla chargers in the middle of the Zambia.
No. And then you have to do a forced walking safari.
Okay, so here's kind of an aerial view of what you were talking about, the second largest wildebeest migration.
Yes, indeed. This is actually what I am hoping to take my father on next year. I'm very excited and hope he should be too. But this is the second largest wildebeest migration in Africa, which takes place through Lua Plain. They've actually, I spoke to one of my friends with Time and Tide yesterday, and he says the buffalo have actually, the wildebeest have actually arrived. So they're down at camp. They arrived about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. But the beauty of this is that, it's by no means in comparing it with Kenya or Tanzania. We don't have the numbers of Kenya and Tanzania, nor do we does Zambia try to compare themselves. This is tens of thousands rather than hundreds of thousands. But with the wildebeest, that does, of course, bring all of the predators, birds, and all the types of species. And of course, with the wildebeest coming, that's also the indicator that it's calving season. So there's going to be a lot of activity that we're going to find with that migration.
So fun. And I love maps of migrations. I have one for the other wildebeest migration in the Kenya, Tanzania. So you have one for Zambia's. So essentially, they make a nice little, looks like, not figure eight pattern. It's more of a, I don't know what you would call that, but what do you call that?
Yeah, kind of like if it never crossed,
there
or
you
a gourd.
go.
I guess you make it look like a gourd, an upside down gourd.
And they're always moving, right? They're just moving.
Always moving, yeah. Yeah, and it's not in such large concentrations as we'll find in East Africa. You will have kind of your pockets of them, but they are moving throughout the year.
Yeah.
And then and through Lua Plain, it is one of the Zambia is very seasonal. That's another thing a lot of people should understand about Zambia. So of course there are some places that you can go all year round, but Lua Plain, for example, is only open from October until April. So the best times to come to see the migration are kind of towards more March and February, and also October and November.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. Fishing. I have a son who loves to fish, so going out fishing while we're on a safari would be super fun. And again, not available everywhere.
Yes.
Whitewater rafting. I have 3 teenagers and college kids, always fans. And we did it in Alaska this summer wearing dry suits because the water was so cold. I imagine it looks like the water here is a little bit warmer, but it looks like, I don't know, what kind of class rapids are in Zambia? Do you know?
I'm not sure the class of rapids, but I've seen the river rafters do this over at Mosia Tonya going down by Vic Falls.
Okay.
And it's very famous. It's very, very popular to go do this. A lot of people. I've never personally gone and done it yet. I'll more so enjoy it from from above.
Okay.
But I'll probably can get convinced on my next trip to go. But yeah, during the river rapids, and all these types of experiences, again, are the type of amazing experiences you can enjoy when you're in Livingston and at the falls.
Yeah. And I love the faces of people. Like we have a shot like this from our trip, right? You're either like scared to death or you have like a big grin on your face.
Yeah, either or. So I'll stick to the fishing and the Sundowner cruises.
Okay, there you go. Right. So here comes the Sundowner Cruise for those people who don't want to go on the treacherous whitewater. You can just go chill on a Sundowner Cruise at the end of the day, having a cocktail, and it would be so peaceful.
Absolutely. Between the Sundowner Cruise and the fishing, those are 2 of my favorite experiences to do on the Zambezi, and at multiple points, especially if you have, competitive fishers, anglers, then, you're looking for brim, tigerfish, or vundu, which is kind of a Zambezi catfish. So there's plenty to catch here. So you can either just be sipping on your champagne or your Zambezi beer, or you can be fishing, or a mix of both.
And are they edible fish?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
But we will do catch and release for most of these areas because of, we are in national parks and we don't have licenses to catch and to cook. But of course, we'll catch and release just for the competitive side of it. But when you get back to your camp or your hotel, they've got plenty of seafood ready for you.
Well, we still have maybe about 5 pounds left of the halibut and king salmon that we caught in Alaska this summer. Wow. And that's super fun to just think about your trip after you get back. But all right. So this is on my personal bucket list because it's so fun and adventurous. It's definitely not for everybody.
Yes.
It's a very small flying machine that goes up in the air over the falls. Have you ever done this, just out of curiosity?
I've actually not done microlighting yet. I've personally, and for anyone who's ever seen Top Gear, when in Botswana, when they were driving through Botswana, and then former President Ian Khama landed in the Mahari pans with his microlight. Ever since then, I've wanted to do it. So I'm either going to do it in the pans in Botswana, but I would love to do it actually in Zambia and do it over the falls. I just think this is the most amazing experience.
I mean, it just looks like, you're flying. I mean, what a very cool experience. I think for my son's 13th birthday, his best friend's mom and I gave them hang gliding lessons in a place about an hour from us. I'm a big fan of experiences for presents. All went well, so I think he would be game to do this with me.
Yes, between that and also for the clients who are a little bit, a bit more skittish about microlighting, you can also do the helicopter flips, or we call it Flight of the Angels, which is a really great experience to do out there. But then for people that want to be on the ground, especially for families, doing things like this, ATVing through the national parks is really fun as well. These aren't, major safari areas in terms of the wildlife. They're a lot safer. So it's very, very easy for you to take the little ones out and do experiences like this.
So fun. And they have little mini ATVs that the little ones can drive around. I mean, how great is that?
Absolutely.
And then love this. So this is the Devil's Pool.
This is the Devil's Pool. Yes, it is a natural pool on the edge of the falls. that you can go to. So clients can come over here and you can jump in the falls and jump in the pool for about 15 to 20 minutes and get your photo and then keep it moving, because there's obviously going to be people behind you. But it is one of those experiences that if you're going to come to the Zambian side of the falls, that you must do. I've actually multiple times given up my seat so other people could go, but I think next time I get back to the falls, that will not be happening because I don't have my photo of it yet.
And so tell me, it looks, as we look at this photo, like 2-3 feet behind these people, it drops off however many feet below them. That is correct? Like
that
you're
is
that
absolutely correct. Hundreds of feet down to the bottom to the rapids that we showed below, that we showed previously. So I know it does look a little bit scary, and this is why, of course, we want to do this when the water is low. So between July and December is when we want to do it, when it's actually accessible. And you can easily walk over to a little island, and then from there, the guides will take you to go take your photo in the pool.
So fun. Well, everyone's looking for a good Instagram photo, so.
Exactly.
So sundowners are obviously a big tradition on safari. And I think this one might be in a riverbed that's dry. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So this is actually in South Luangwa as well. And this is one thing we love to do in Africa in general. If we can use the riverbed, we will, but especially in South Luangwa, when the seasons change over to the drier seasons and our riverbeds are empty, we'll actually go and do dining in the riverbeds. And, to set up everything for our clients. It's absolutely amazing. We might have a few visitors, perhaps some hyena or something that are smelling the food. All perfectly safe. We've got our scouts and our guides and our chefs around us. But it is really a perfect way to enjoy being out in the bush and really kind of connecting with nature in a way that you won't really get to do. And then the funny thing is, if you were to come back, say in in Q1 of this year, kind of right around now, these riverbeds will be completely full. And then we're going to swap out the dining for boats and we're going to go fishing.
So that means you have to go twice because you want to go during both seasons, right?
Exactly.
And then we always like to talk about interesting people you can meet on a trip. A lot of times that's wrapped up in the culture. So I have a few photos of some examples that you shared with me. You want to tell us a little bit about what they're doing in this photo?
Yeah, well, these are all, this is the Tonga Tribe from Lower Zambezi that are doing a traditional yearly ceremony. I forget which one this exactly is, but this goes to speak to about, there's 70 different tribes in Zambia speaking, 70 or more languages. Some of them are traditional tribes only from Zambia. Some of them are mixed. I think we're going to show some others. But it really, as much as people think about when they ask about tribes in Africa, a lot of times they're actually thinking of the Maasai and the Samburu and up in East Africa. But even myself, I'm a Kalanga from Botswana. And we're in Botswana and Zimbabwe, but all these tribes are quite related. And the history of them is very, very diverse and very, very different. And, it really, in Zambia specifically, you'll find that even your guides at this, your guides and the staff at the camps, even anyone you meet in the city, say in Lusaka, they will tell you what tribe they are. They'll tell you what the differences are, whether they're in traditional dress or dressed, like myself right now. They are very much into their tribes, especially if you go to, say, Borotse land with the Lozi people who have actually for several years right here. Yes, thank you. Their great king, King Lewanika, who actually the great grandson, who's now the king right now. They've got an amazing stories. And actually the original King Lewanika, worked with Stanley Livingston, and actually Stanley lived with him or lived in Borotse land for many months. So really learning about the tribes is very important. It's not going to be the same as when you're in Kenya and Tanzania, because we are not, they're not living all in the bush, for example. But it is really important to just learn about the different cultural systems between each of the tribes.
Mm-hmm. And I think for many of us and many of the families that I work with to send all over the world, I mean, learning about the history and the culture and all of that is such a big part of the trip, right? It's not just a quote unquote vacation, it's educational and opportunities to connect with people who have had a completely different, life and world experience.
Absolutely.
And so going to see these tribes and meet them and talk with them is such a big part of the experience, I think, that has such an impact on people when they go.
Totally. And these are actually the Ngoni people from Luangwa. And I was just in South Luangwa a couple months ago. And I'd say of all the tribes, in terms of who really want to show you who they are and everything and tell you their stories, when you go to Mfui, when you go to the Luangwa area, everyone is pretty much Ngoni. And they're just such colorful people. They are so fun. And whether they're in traditional dress or they're dressed, in their work clothes and everyday clothes, you have to go and hang out with some Ngoni people and just enjoy some time with them.
Yeah. And so I know when we were talking to get ready for today, we talked a little bit about bringing in some of the histories
Yes.
for all of the people who are listening who might not have any idea about the history of Zambia. So tell us about this gentleman who is in a very proper, suit and top
Yes.
hat. Who is he?
This is King Lewanika I. So his great-grandson is actually now also the king and regent of Barotse land. So Lewanika actually means conqueror. He, like I said, when Stanley came to Zambia, he actually was living in his territory. And King Lewanika was one of the people that actually started to allow the British to come into Zambia when it was still not even Zambia at the time, to actually do mining in the areas. And when it actually became a British protectorate years later, it was because of kings and great rulers like King Lewanika that really have shaped Zambia the way it is now.
Well, I mean, I love the photo because he just looks so very
Yeah, so he was visiting Scotland in that photo.
Official. Yeah. He looks very official. All right. Well, we always like to talk about over-the-top ideas, and helicopters and hot air balloons always seem to make the list. Not every country for safaris is a place where you can do a hot air balloon, but Zambia is one of them. So what say you about going up in a hot air balloon? Should people do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's not a lot of places in Southern Africa that you can do the hot air ballooning over, over the wildlife. So this is actually out in Kafue National Park. One of the few places that can do it. It's actually, this operator is very special. So I think it is an absolute must. If you've done it in Kenya, Tanzania, great. Come and do it with us down in Zambia.
Yeah. Well, we're doing it in Kenya when we go this summer. So I'm a fan. I think I'm going to do it again. Another example, take a helicopter. I'm also a big fan of helicopters. And then accommodation. So, all of these countries have such beautiful properties that, whether they be a tended camp or, real walls and a roof, are absolutely spectacular. And Zambia is no different. So you sent me a good collection of fun photos, and I had fun, going through them because we can't show 1,000 photos. So let's start with this one. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Yes, this is Thorntree River Lodge, which is owned by African Bush Camps, one of my clients. This is in Mosi-oa-Tunya National Park. This is easily one of my favorite lodges, actually, in Africa. Bex Ndlovu, the owner of African Bush Camps, designed this, and I will personally tell you and everyone that's listening, I have probably bugged Bex at least 10 times to live here. So much so that I'm trying to design my next house to be like Thorntree River Lodge. It has beautiful views looking out onto the Zambezi River. Each room has their own personal butler. The photo we showed earlier of the Sundowner Cruises was actually taken from here. So it's an ideal location to come for a few nights, either to start or end your trip here at Thorntree, and really just take in the sights. We don't need to go on safari every day. We can do the rhino trekking, do all the other activities we've mentioned in the falls, and really also just relax, which is the key activity. We call it DNA, do nothing at all.
Oh, love that. Again, here's a beautiful example of, I don't know if it's a sunset or a sunrise, but it's spectacular.
Yes, this is Chinzombo, which is one of our luxury properties with time and tide safaris. This is in South Luangwa. I was very lucky to be out here in August of last year. It is one of our premier camps. It's very small. It's only 6 rooms, and it's right across actually the river from the national park. So as you can see with this open design, it's really designed for you to take in everything, whether you're in your room or you're relaxing in the main areas. You're always looking at onto the river, onto the national park. And I will say, when I came here on the first day of safari, that morning, within about 25 minutes, I saw 10 lion and I saw 14 lion within about an hour. So that was absolutely fantastic.
Well, I selected 4 photos from it because there's so many beautiful photos. So if that tells you anything. And this was one of the ones where I said to you, seriously? Like,
yes.
This is so stunning. This is a picture of the night sky with people sitting around a fire pit on the river, having a sundowner. Like, is there anything better?
No, not really. This is why this is my job. And to mention that we also will drive through the national park and then we'll cross the river by boat, which takes about 30 seconds. And then once you arrive, you'll be welcomed by the team with their cocktail. They'll likely be singing and welcome you with some songs, take you to your rooms very quickly. And then, you're going to be eating out here just underneath the stars. It's absolutely fantastic.
Right? I just want a safari for the rest of my life. Like, that's it. That's all I need.
Yes.
And this next one I love because my teenagers remind me of the importance of the golden hour in terms of taking photos. And you can tell that this is during the golden hour because that golden sun is just reflecting into the safari. This is kind of a thatched hut room, it looks like. Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is in Chenja. This is actually only about an hour away from Chinzombo, further up the river. And as you can see from the photo, the water is actually high here. Remember, we were down in South Luangwa earlier in the dry riverbed. So this is what it would look like when the water's up. The beauty of this camp is it's actually a seasonal camp. We have 4 of these in South Luangwa. So they're at a lower price point. But the whole idea is that you can actually walk from camp to camp. We actually have Time and Tide is the only full walking circuit in Zambia. And so all these camps range from about 2.5 to 3.5 to 4 hours to walk between. But the beauty of them is, unlike Chinzombo, which is permanent, open all year round, these are seasonal camps. We actually construct them in 4 weeks, keep them for the season, and then deconstruct them in another 4 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew they were seasonal, but I didn't realize that you took the entire thing down. Well, that gives you a little bit of an idea about what it's made of, right? So
exactly.
Right.
There's a lot of thatch, a lot of grass there. Absolutely amazing.
And then here, people are just having some orange juice while there's an elephant right in front of them.
That is the standard. In Luangwa, we'll always have animals coming through. And this would also be noted, one of the big differences for South Africa versus a lot of these countries that we've mentioned today, and particularly Zambia, is that we have no fences. That the fences are not like South Africa. The animals will be walking through. They can easily walk through camp. And that is part of the experience. So we want them to have these up close and personal experiences without the fear of, any possible danger.
And that helps me remember at some camps with kids in particular, like they have a minimum age because to go from your room to breakfast, for example, you could encounter a lion or something. Do any of these camps have minimum ages?
So it's actually quite funny. In Zambia, their strictness about minimum ages is not as strict as other countries. Okay. So one reason for that is mainly because a lot of clients who come to Zambia and bring their children, the children have likely safaried before. Okay. And so they actually know a little bit better what to do. I always say, my dad took me on my first safari at 8 years old, that 8 should be your kind of your starting place. Okay. So at any of these camps that we show, we actually allow kids at any age to any of our camps with Time and Tide. But there will be certain activities that the children can't do based on their age. So you can start doing things like the canoeing and stuff like this around 16. But activities like this we see here, and that's, I believe, Chris Liebenberg right there. This is in Chongwei. I can tell that. He's the driver. We can bring kids on this, and I've actually gone out with Chris's children who are like 9 and 10. Okay. So we went fishing together in hippo-infested waters.
You're fishing with five big chubby hippos swimming by.
Yes, this is the Chongwei. This is in Chongwei. Was our camp out in the lower Zambezi, and this is the beauty of it. We've got 3 amazing styles of accommodation here. We've got Chongwei tented camp. What you're seeing right here is the suites. These are Chongwei suites. So these ones come with your own dining staff, your own private pool, fireplace, Wi-Fi, and beautiful, as you can see, tent looking onto the Zambezi River. So this place is also known as the Land of Giants. You will have a lot of elephants walking through camp.
I think they have one. There he is.
Yep, there he is. Yep. I personally couldn't go to my room multiple times because the elephants kept on walking by my bedroom and I had to wait. So, that's what you have to do sometimes. But this is actually Chongwei House. And if you could actually go back even one photo, one of the jokes with it is that it looks a little bit like a Flintstones house.
It
Just
does.
because of our design.
It does. But it's so beautiful, all lit up at nighttime like that, right?
Yeah, this is an exclusive use house for 8 to 10 people. When I was there was actually a whole family from toddlers up to grandparents. And one of the most interesting thing is here, and we have our own private dining staff here, your own activities, everything is fully just catered for them, as well as having 2 elephants that are resident elephants just for Chongwei House.
Oh, goodness.
They love some of the fruits around here, so they will always be around.
Awesome. And how far is this from the regular tented camp?
Oh, about a 2-minute drive.
Oh, super close.
Yes, okay. We're all quite close, but still separated.
I just can't imagine sitting next to the pool right there and have the elephant coming up to maybe grab some of those leaves or say hello.
Yeah, what better time to, have a one-on-one with an elephant?
Yeah, what fun. And I love this photo because it's such a contemporary. Obviously, there's, the difference between that camp that you just mentioned that was seasonal, that they're putting up and taking down and has a thatched roof. And this camp is very drastic. And so that's why it's so good to have a conversation before you go on safari. What kind of feel do you want to have in your lodging? Because they vary so greatly. And this one is super contemporary and cool looking.
Yes, and of course, named after King Lewanika. This property is in the Lozi Kingdom in Brasiland, in Lua Plains. And the beauty of this, very much like Chinzombo, is that it's the open face plan, that everything will look like onto the plains. This is our family suite, of course. We actually only have 6 of these, so it's a lot of space, and we're actually the only permanent camp in all of Lua Plains. So we're very, very lucky to have that experience. And it's quite funny. We have a lot of clients who will call and say, "Well, why don't you have a pool here like we have at Chinzombo?" But what we've actually done is the king has his own, has a king's pool, which he has given us permission to use for fishing and actually also for swimming. Remember I said we don't have any hippo or crocodile over here, so we can easily jump into the pools and use natural pools to swim in, which I think is personally also a really just very different experience that is, people will love it. They get a little bit skittish at first until they understand that there's no predators in there, and then they'll jump in. A lot of times when we have our pools at the other camps, you might use it only once, but if we tell you we're going to take you to the king's pool, then I guarantee you're going to jump in.
Agreed. And I live in New Hampshire, so we're big fans of like jumping on rope swings into the Connecticut River. So my kids will be right there in the King's Pool for sure. Although I will say, like, if you go someplace and you see all these hippos swimming and then you go somewhere else and like, oh, there's no hippos. Like, are you sure? Maybe one crept in there when you weren't looking. And then another stunning evening photo with a gorgeous night sky and a fire pit.
Absolutely. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. So lots of opportunities for gorgeous photos wherever you go as well. And so here's the map of what you were saying about being able to walk from camp to camp. Tell us about sort of logistically, who does this and how does it work?
Yeah, so a lot of the camps, of course, in Zambia will have walking guides. And for us, when we go out for a walk, you'll go out with your group as well as with your guide and a scout. And kind of a number 3 who's essentially like a tea bearer who's going to be carrying all of our treats and our drinks and everything, kind of a little picnic basket as well. So when we do stop, we'll set that up for our little siesta or a little tea break or amarula and tea, if you're with me, and we'll enjoy the walk. So when I did my walk in August, I stayed at Kakuli, which is, of course, the most southeastern property right there. And I did, because I didn't have enough time to walk from camp to camp. I was on a bit of a rush, but we did it was about a 2.5-hour walk in, and that was about 7.5 kilometers. So the beauties of these walks is that you can stay at one camp and just walk in your area. But what a lot of clients will do is they'll walk from camp to camp.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely fantastic. And even when I did my walk, when I got back, there were some clients from Louis, which is, of course, the most furthest west property, which has some of the longest walks. And they actually had walked all the way pretty close to Kukuli, which is it was about a 6-hour walk they did. Very, very impressed by them because they were older Germans. And then they had lunch and had a bit of a break at Kukuli, and then they drove back via game drive.
Wow,
So
that's a great idea.
absolutely. So clients can figure out how to mix and match this with walking, game drives, and even seasonal boating. But when you're out here, you definitely want to take time to do at least 1 to 2 walks of at least 3 hours.
Absolutely. And I think the idea, it's like hut to hut hiking in Switzerland, right? It's
Yes.
just fun to go from place to place rather than like feeling like the drive is not part of the fun of it, right? You're out there walking and seeing things and getting exercise. I love the idea. And so here's a fun photo of you, which
Yes.
I think you called a starbed. So I'm more familiar with the more luxury starbeds that cost thousands of dollars a
Yeah.
night. But this one is a 3-pointed tent that's floating in the air. Tell us about that.
Yes, indeed. So this is with Time and Tide, and these are called our signature sleepouts. So at all the different Time and Tide camps, our clients have the option to sleep out in, as you can see, a sleeping sleeping tent like this one.
Now, do people just throw their kids out there in these, or do they actually do it themselves?
Oh no, I actually went out there with kids. So I went out there with a group and the 9 and 10-year-old I mentioned earlier, and they were perfectly fine.
Okay.
I'm 6'3".
Okay. And so you could have the kids though sleep out there, and then if you as adults don't want to sleep in this tent, you could just sleep in the normal room.
Yes, absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll keep your tent in camp for you while you're out here. So
Okay.
usually, if you're going to do 2 nights, we'll add on a night so they can do this experience. And we'll go out just with the group. It's $275 a person. And you'll go out with the scout. I'm sorry, you go out with your guide, usually 2 guides as well as one, so we can keep a night watch as well as a chef.
Okay.
And so we'll do our game drive up here. And we'll have dinner and drinks and do some stargazing. Jump into your tent when you're ready to go to bed. Wake up in the morning. We will have breakfast, and we do also have, particularly at this one, we have a shower and a toilet as well. And then when breakfast is done, we'll take a game drive back to camp.
Crazy. That sounds super fun.
It is
for everybody.
very, very fun. Not for the faint of heart, but I say, in Lua Plain and in Lower Zambezi, we use these tents. And then in South Luangwa, we also use the tents in the riverbed, which is absolutely gorgeous. So,
and imagine, so this is all, as you can see through. So when you're laying in bed at night in your tent, looking up at the sky through this netting would be just magical.
It is absolutely magical. And again, that's the photo from doing it over in Lua Plain. Just absolutely gorgeous. It truly is magical. I really would suggest that any client, whether you're doing a treehouse, a sleep out, a signature sleep out, you name it, do it. It is definitely worth it. Even if you get a little bit skittish, it's perfectly safe. The guides are always going to be around, and your safety is their biggest priority. It's just an amazing experience.
Out of curiosity, are these all single person floating tents, or any of them doubles?
These are actually doubles.
Oh, it is a double.
Believe it or not. Yeah. So these are actually doubled, and they're actually on a bit of an incline. So when you come in, no one will actually come in down to the middle, which I discovered. But if you don't and again, perfect example. These are the photos of the ones in South Luangwa that we'll use with sleeping beds. So we can fit 2 people in, but if you don't like your partner, then we can get you another tent.
Okay. Or you just might not want to sleep in such close quarters with your partner. And again, this is another gorgeous night sky. And clearly the guide here has some astronomy knowledge, and he's pointing out different stars in the constellation.
Which is the funnest thing to do, is to do astrology and do just stargazing out here with as simple as a laser pointer with a drink in your hand, and just seeing everything that the universe has to offer the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, literally everything the universe has to offer. So this, I think, is a photo of Lusaka, where majority of people would probably fly in and out of if they were coming to Zambia. Is there anything momentous in Lusaka to see, or what's your thought on that?
Yes. So most clients, when they're going to come to Lusaka, will likely spend 1 to 2 nights, usually 1. I find most clients, if they want to spend time in the cities of Zambia, they're going to spend more time in Livingston.
Okay.
But with that said, Lusaka is a bustling city. For people who want to know a lot about also during, of course, apartheid and the freedom movement, this is where the ANC was also based. And so there's a lot of history there. But, it's a very vibrant city. It's a very young city. There's great hotels and restaurants to enjoy here. And it's very vibrant. So I stay at a hotel called Latitude 15, which is in the kind of a suburb by the Embassy District in Lusaka. It is absolutely amazing. You get to really meet the expat and local communities all together in this particular hotel. And that's really what Lusaka is famous for, is really amalgamation of your expats, your foreigners, your locals, and of course your tourists all really getting together. So there's one place that you want to see all that and get a vibe of what Zambian modern, society and life looks like. Come to Lusaka.
Sounds like a good plan. Okay, so as we wrap it up, we'll talk a little bit about seasonality, which you've touched on some. You had 3 great illustrations that we're not going to dive into the detail of all of them, but they're there for people to go back and reference if they want to. South Luangwa, you want to just go over maybe the highlights of each place and seasonalities?
Yes, with South Luangwa, of course, it is actually open all year round, but some camps will be seasonal. The best time to come, for most of Southern Africa is always going to be that May to November period. But don't sleep on the secret season. That is our green season between December up until April. And this is when you're going to see the most dramatic rains. This is when, places like South Luangwa will fill, the riverbeds will fill, and we can go seasonal boating. We're going to have a lot more predators, a lot more birding as well at this time of the year. So, each season has, and each month does bring a little bit something different to it. So, it's great all year round, just depending on what you're looking for.
And I love diagrams like this that show so much information on one page. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And then Lua Plains?
Yes, Lua, of course, is only open from October until July. So we have Camp Lewanika open from the mid-October to mid-July. The big times to come are for the if people want to come for the migration, the best time to come is October, November, or around April when they're heading back up north. Sometimes they head back around May. But also, again, coming in that January, Feb period, yes, it'll be a bit hot, but the rains are coming in, the birds are in, you can see big hyena action. So all season round, you'll find really great action. But I think the big question is, do you want to see predators? Do you want to see birds? Do you want to do water activities? And that will decide when you want to come.
Again, another good thing to think about before you start your planning. And the Lower Zambezi, as you say.
Yes, Lower Zam. This is arguably my favorite area to go to in Zambia. I have been coming here for years. Unfortunately, it's only open from April until November. And that is pretty much come anytime during that period. Between the wild dogs, the leopard, the lion, the elephants, the canoeing, the game drives, all of it is absolutely amazing. The one big thing I would say, though, is if we want to do sleepouts, we want to make sure we're there from May onwards, so we don't get any rains.
Okay.
And of course, in November, and of course I was just there in August. In November, Fishing is massive in areas like Lake Kariba and over here, which is just further on in Lower Zambezi. So we really want to make sure if your clients are anglers that they're coming to the lakes, and if they want to do any big fishing, that October, November period is the top period to come.
Okay, great to know. And what about going back to Vic Falls? So a lot of people know Zambia, Zimbabwe because of Victoria Falls. If you are staying in one and want to go to the other one or want to see it from both sides, is it easy to cross over between them? Number one, and number two, where's your favorite spot to view the falls from?
Oh gosh, I don't think I can answer that second one. Let me answer the first one first.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it is very easy to cross over the falls. Actually, it was just announced on Monday that Zambia has actually reduced the cost of visa fees. So if you want to see both sides of the falls, you want to get a uni visa, which costs $50, and you can pay for that in either Zimbabwe or Zambia. The best time to see the falls in the Zambian side is between July and December. And on the Zimbabwean side, there's obviously those opposite months. As long as you're not there in the dry season, then of kind of that May-April period, then you're pretty good. But I think it's good to see both sides of the falls, depending on what time of the year that you're there. But if you're not going to cross over to Zimbabwe and you just want to stay in Mositini National Park, you can do all those activities, and it's very easy. And you can even go to right at the border where they have like the bungee jumping and everything right there, which is absolutely fantastic.
So I went bungee jumping when I was about 22 in Australia, and I was terrified. And I definitely would never do it again as a mature adult, but I do see an appeal for some.
Yeah.
They have so many adventurous activities. You don't have to go that crazy. Isn't there also, there's like a big swing there as well, right?
Yes, the flying squirrel is what they call it.
I want to go on a flying squirrel. I actually have been on a flying squirrel. I bet they named it after that at Miraval, the spa in the Berkshires. They have a flying squirrel, which was so fun, where they strap you to, I don't know, like a bungee sort of thing, bring you up to a tree, and then let you go, and you just fly through the air. So it's
this one is more like you go from the similar bungee jumping spot, but instead of jumping down, you jump out and you'll swing over the falls. Yeah.
I'm in. I'll do that.
Yeah, one of the best things to do when you go to the falls, again, whether Zambian or Zimbabwean, you can literally just Google Victoria Falls or Mositini activities, and you get a whole price list that's updated every year of all the kind of a la carte activities, because there'll always be the activities that your lodge or your hotel will provide for you, all inclusive, that you've paid for. But then you have all these other ones, a lot of which we just went over, which really your client needs to spend at least a day or two doing those ones.
Absolutely. I'm there for at least 3 for sure. Yeah. Well, Wazha, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Such great information, and you have such knowledge about all the different properties and the places and the seasonality. So I really appreciate you coming and joining me today.
Thank you, Mimi, so much. And thank you for having me on and let me talk about Zambia and Southern Africa, which is, of course, my love and my passion. I hope that we can get you down to travel with me down to Zambia soon enough, and we'll get on the canoe and go do some squirrel flying.
I want to fly squirrels with you, and I want to go, canoe on the Zambezi River. So that will be fun. One day we'll get there. All right. Well, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much.